We're good to go.
Welcome back. This is the Between the Sheets podcast with
Nathan.
and Sabrina Dennis. And you know what? Today, what we're talking about?
Building blocks. And we're going to talk about a bit of struggle.
A bit of struggle.
Video hard times.
We're gonna have a talk, are we? We're gonna unpack, I think, a bit more around what it takes to have a good quality marriage relationship.
This episode, I really want to go in.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Let's go then. Now, I was actually excited. Doing the last episode was fun. I think we laid a great foundation into how we met and, you know, a little bit more about us. But I think we really do need to dig a little bit deeper, like you say, go a bit further in.
We've got some good feedback as well on our Instagram as well. I asked the question about what topics do people want to hear from us, and I think this episode around building blocks will be helpful for people to really just understand that you can build a marriage and it can work. Like, I really love you, and I believe that our marriage is working.
I'm not laughing at what you said, but it's the way you said it. Like, I really love you, and the way, like, it's almost like it's not the norm, is it?
No, because I'm conscious that sometimes, especially when we're using social media, I feel that I can't explain it. Like, they're just pretending. They're just doing that for the gram.
Oh yeah, because really at home they don't chat to each other, and
they don't really. It's not like really that good, but it is, and I think that's because of the foundation, the blocks that we put in place to help us to build something that is, I believe, still flourishing. And for me, it's amazing because I remember being at the altar, saying my vows, and thinking this feeling can't get better. And coming up to 17 years, I can definitely say that it's getting better. It's even sweeter.
Getting better.
I think I love you more.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so nice. That is really nice.
So what would you say is, from your perspective, like, it'd be interesting to hear, like, if there's one building block or your top 3 building blocks for a successful marriage, what would you say they are?
Wow, that's a very loaded question. I think that for me, the start of your marriage is before you said I do. You start building and laying the foundation in those times when you're getting ready to get married. So you maybe engagement, or even before that when you're dating and you're really trying to find out about the other person. So I know for us, one of the major things that we underwent was premarital counselling. And I know we talked about it briefly before, but I don't feel like it's a common thread across a lot of relationships now.
I totally agree. I think, we've done it a lot in terms of people that we know and being in our circle advise that. I actually say categorically, do not get married without premarital counselling. And I'm trying to understand even why. Why do I say that?
We say it a lot. We were reflecting, weren't we? Like, why? Because we promote it. And I don't even think it was promoted to us in the way that we promote it. I say it because I think it was in that time when we last, our premarital counselling lasted like 12 sessions. And that, you know, if you did that every month, that's a year, isn't it?
So what did you get from it?
We went through everything. We went through from a Christian perspective, the biblical understanding of marriage. But outside of that, we talked about finances, how we're going to manage our money. Are we going to have a joint account? Are we going to have our separate accounts? Are we going to have my money and you're going to have your money? Like, we had to talk about that and lay that on the table. We talked about past relationships and the traumas that we might have had, or the expectations that we have. We talked about roles and responsibilities. So if I'm working and you're working, then who someone gets home first, who's cooking? Like, we talked about things like that. We talked about sex.
I think
all sorts.
I think why I say is because I think that people get it confused. I think there's a complete difference between the wedding day and a marriage. And when you're talking about the two, I do think they get confused, because I think when people make that decision to get married, they focus all their energy into the one day, the dress, the function hall, the cake, the invitation,
the family, the invites, who's coming, who can't come,
but I think kids come. But I think what you need to do is kind of think a bit more deeper, because your two worlds coming together and trying to build a whole new unit and family. And I think premarital counseling gives you that space to kind of reflect about who you are as an individual and what is it that you're trying to build together.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have that, even if it's not kind of like counseling, because I know that word's like frightening to people,
that's
like
a big,
like you have a problem.
yeah.
But it's like you either do premarital counseling or you're gonna need counseling during the marriage. But
I think, but there's a point you raised though, and you talk about counseling being like a topic, but talking and having visions and plans together as a couple, I think that's very important. And sometimes you could see if you were going to have counseling as that third person being there to help you navigate through those conversations.
What I would call it is, like we say in our business, a critical friend.
Yes.
It's like a board. It's having
accountability board.
You know, there's a famous scripture that talks about there's safety in the multitude of counselors. So for me, being able to like talk about where you're looking to go, what is your expectations, understanding what is the context of marriage and what is it they're going through. So I was very clear when I went to the altar that it was, I know it sounds extreme to people that may listening, but it was a place of sacrifice, because I understood the definition of the altar, that I was kind of giving up my life to kind of become one with you, and start a whole new life that was going to be better. So I kind of had to address within myself, am I willing to let go to start something new? Is that making sense? Almost like the caterpillar and the butterfly thing. So as Nathan by himself is the caterpillar, but he's going to go into this cocoon of marriage and come out as a butterfly.
Gosh, that's so deep, man. You made it so deep, but I understand the illustration actually in that perspective works really well, because also I think another thing that's worked really well for us in our marriage is working together. So having a joint vision, having values that we've created for our family, and almost like saying, okay, it's God, but it's Nathan and Sabrina, and we never allowed anybody else or anything else into our marriage space. We've always kept that very, very sacred. And I think in terms of building blocks, you know, we probably don't touch on it that much, but we both come from families, and we had to sort of leave our families to come together and build our family.
So that's one building block.
Yeah.
So the power and importance of premarital counseling. So if anyone's listening, like, please, if you're considering to get married, if you are already married and haven't had premarital counseling or don't believe in counseling, I would say go and get some. It really truly breaks my heart when I've heard of relationships or marriages that haven't worked, and for whatever reason people haven't tried that route in terms of bringing in someone to kind of give a kind of second or third opinion, or just to help you hear. Because sometimes, you know, when the emotions are high and or you've got your own mindset, having that middle person in between can help you communicate and hear each other better. I particularly remember a time when we was probably upset with each other and we wrote each other letters.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good communication tool, because sometimes when you're in the heat of an argument or a disagreement, you can't hear each other because all you can hear is the emotion and the pain.
Yeah, it's distorted. You say things that aren't even being said, or hearing things that aren't being said.
Yeah, but if you write a letter or you have someone in the middle, they can help to reflect what you're saying to bring better understanding. So that building block is important for me. I think if I was going to say a building block, it would have to be, it's probably like 2 in 1, which is integrity and honesty. Like going back to that meeting or that conversation that we had, where I've kind of sat with you and just confessed to you and talked about all of my past kind of sexual partners, past relationships, even things that I'd done that I wasn't proud of. I felt that was important to like build the foundation based on honesty. Obviously that was very risky, because you could have turned around and walked away and says, I'm out of here. What is this? Oh, what this? Me gone.
This? Not even what is this? Who is this?
You could have you could have done a net wine.
I could have, and I didn't. I think, but that's the truth of I think relationships, and you're starting from the beginning and you're building from a clean slate almost. Like you've just said, right, this is who I was. This is what I did. There's no skeletons that are going to jump out of the closet now. when you marry for 17 years and you know, I'm not gonna hear about a baby or a mum somewhere.
And just as an
or any
example,
of that.
because if this is someone's first time listening, some of the things in the context of what I told you, because I know people might skirt around, like I can tell a bit
you
of the
told me
truth.
everything.
I was so honest to say that, you know, when you was pregnant with our first child, and I told Tamina that, you know, the other day. And
What did she say?
She was like, really, Dad? And I says, yeah. Like, I just felt like I wanted to tell her, like, when you was pregnant, that I cheated on you.
What was your response to her reaction?
I don't know. I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember. It was over dinner when I took her out for her meal.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just talk, he's just talking. I was just trying to give it the context of boys and saying that we are clever and we will make you feel like you're the only one in the world, and have a couple on the go, a couple pots on the fire. You're gonna say,
I'm not laughing because it's not funny.
Just in case your pot burns. So we always have a backup.
You have a backup pot.
And we have a packed lunch as well,
Oh
just in
my
case.
gosh.
You know what I'm saying?
Your vase is covered. Never gonna go hungry.
Yeah. In the sexual department.
Anyway.
But, I think I was just trying to articulate like the sophistication and how deep it is and it can be. So, you know, I'm not to say you shouldn't trust boys completely, but
well, I don't know if you've given her
clever.
a good argument for trusting. That was like,
I know there'll be probably
one.
men listening to this thinking, "Oh God, he's spilling the game, the beans." But I don't care because we want to build stronger families and a stronger society. So
I think that starting from a clean slate and not having that, for me as a woman, I don't want to have the doubt in the back of my mind, like, is there something I don't know, or is there someone, or, you know, is there a scenario, is there a situationship or an entanglement meaning anywhere else that I don't know about? And it's better to just confront it. For some, that might mean that you're not ready yet.
You know what? Let me try and break down that bit. I think through the premarital counselling as well, you have to be honest about where you're coming from generationally and from a family perspective. I was conscious that marriage wasn't a thing that's in the family. I was conscious of my own dad's behavior in the past. I was conscious that it felt like within the community that you don't see that much examples of marriage. So for me, I was kind of like, I'm almost like on a detective mission. I was trying to find all the things that people may not have done that could have made their thing crumble.
Right.
Is that making sense? I was when I was reading, then that's like if a building block 3 would be is around reading and education and trying to understand what marriage is, how to be a man, how to be a husband, how to be a father, and reading stuff and taking that time out. But I was coming from a perspective that I just really didn't want to go into this thing, and what was I just wanted to have the best chance possible. So that's why I did it, because I was acutely aware that, you know, as the oldest of my children or my household or my siblings, I seen the pain that my mom went through, man. When when her relationship with my dad didn't work out, and I just, with all my heart, just didn't want to do that to a woman.
So you had an element of watching other people, your mom's upset and trauma and things like that, and other people's not necessarily the best ways of doing things. Say, okay, that's how you don't do it then. And I guess for me, so I'm thinking about, you know, you said you was on like a detective mission. I think on reflection, when I think back to my parents, one of the things that I saw that they were missing a lot of the time, in just from my lens now, is that communication. So, you know, like how we will spend hours and hours probably talking. I don't have that memory of my parents going out on dates and having that communication in that way. They probably did at some point, but at an age when I can remember it, I can't remember seeing that. So that communication and that quality time in other ways, they were very heavily focused on building a marriage, building a life for their family. And I think they got busy building that they probably missed each other. True. In the end, you know.
I hear that.
You see what I mean? Like, you can be focused so heavily on getting to the end goal and see, you know, get your house and you've got your family and you make enough money, you're able to go on the holidays and this and that. And you're building. But when you've got to the end and well, you've done it, let's say you've built whatever it is you're building, the other person's not there. And that's a real...
what does it profit a man or
Yeah.
woman to gain the whole world and then to lose their
So if we're
marriage or their
building,
life or
we've got to build
their
together.
soul?
We can't build, independently of each other, because, that's what happens.
There's some other building blocks that I want to share. It is the number one block, but I didn't want to say it first
What's the one?
because I just feel in this society, people are so nervous or scared or get, for whatever reason, turned off by the conversation of God and,
Yeah.
faith, religion.
Faith.
I didn't want to start with that because I didn't want people to hear that and just run. I'm getting out of here. What's this?
Just faithful people.
Yeah, but I do think the amount of prayer we have as a couple, where we hold hands and we pray, we attend church, we have a lot of positive people that surround us that speak into our life.
Yeah.
I think that fundamentally has been something that has been powerful in terms of our values, our faith, our prayer life, how we study and we spiritually journey together. I think that is fundamental. I think that's the divine protection, the invisible cloak, the dynamite within it that makes this work, because I can't dare come on a podcast or do this with you and not give God and
not acknowledge the fact that we have God in our lives.
Yeah, and we're Christians. And Christ
it would be
literally
be a crying shame. To be
as the word it says, Christ, a solid rock I stand. But on a serious level, it's like that is the foundation, really, and that we're building. So when we're talking about foundation, yes, we've talked about the blocks, but what we're building upon is the rock.
Yeah.
And the rock for us, from our perspective, is coming from that Christian perspective. But we definitely want to be able to reach not just a Christian audience. We want to reach a world to understand that marriage is a beautiful thing. And if you build with the right materials and you use the right tools, you can have a lovely marriage.
Lovely.
Let's just talk about some of the other blocks, love.
Blocks.
You like fun and laughter.
Well, we probably laugh more than most people. I think we spend too much time laughing sometimes. Not having enough serious times. We do have a lot of fun.
To laugh.
You're too serious.
Mm-hmm.
He's not serious at all. But I think that's the point, that you see laughing now. And anybody who was watching us set up this would know that there's nothing. We are quite crazy, the pair of us together doing stuff, but we have a lot of fun and we make time to laugh.
What type of things?
What type of things do we do?
How am I fun?
How are you fun?
Yeah.
On a day to day?
I might forget.
Need to remind you.
Might blow off my head,
I don't feel like last time we had this issue. You had like pinged off your head.
No, tell me. So I
So
want to hear.
we go out. We go for date night. So we have our 8 o'clock time. Well, it's any time now, but we do spend majority of our Wednesdays together, doing whatever it is we want to do. That might be going out for food. It might be just sitting talking. But we share. We talk. We crack jokes. Majority of the time, Nathan is using some other accent and probably got something wrapped around his head.
Hello, excuse, Sister Dennis.
Ministering to people. I've lost my cushion.
Sister Dennis.
Yeah, Sister Dennis might come out, or the Rastaman might come out.
Why? So
That one, he might come out. I obviously just don't live with you then. I don't live with this Nathan. I live with your personalities, but we do have a lot of fun. We spend a lot of time just doing fun things as well. Because I guess because of the work that we do in our business lives is so heavy.
That answer sounded like PC, so
politically correct. Did it? What's the truth?
Do you enjoy have sex with me?
You asked me how we have fun. Like I thought you was see.
You don't find that fun?
Yes, Nathan. I find that. See, this is just trying to start argument.
I'm good.
Are you good? No. Great. Can't look at me now. You can't look at me. We have a lot of sex now.
So how important do you think sex is in a relationship?
Let's just say that loud. How do I think, right, sex is important. However, before the sex is the intimacy. And that's the bit, I think, if we're talking about building blocks, that sometimes men don't quite get right with women.
Yeah, there's one.
Because you just want to come in like hot.
You know that word that you absolutely hate? Sometimes men come in and want to shag.
absolutely hate that word.
Yeah.
I hate it so much.
But you don't understand
Oh my
about how
God.
to make love. I had to learn that as well.
You know, you just want a quick wham bam, thank you, man. Gone.
Sometimes I don't say thank you. It's just bang. It's just literally bang, 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 bang. Fireworks.
Can I ask a question? Why is it right that that's okay? Like that is not okay.
It's not. I've learned that.
That is so not okay. Like
I've learned
what
that
the
that's
hell,
very
man?
selfish.
Of course, it's selfish.
Yeah, so
we have like a whole needs.
So I have to learn how to
process.
what's my man's name? Mr. Loba.
Shaggy.
Mr. Bombastic.
It's not Shaggy that you would know.
No. So I'm saying, but I had to relearn certain things.
Yes, he did. You had to learn the art of foreplay
and making love.
And it starts from before the bedroom. It starts from in the daytime. It starts from
putting the bag out, the black
emptying
bag
the
of
bin.
rubbish.
It starts from picking up your socks off the floor,
washing up,
tidying up, saying please, saying thank you.
I personally just like to say a few comments.
Oh my gosh. What are you going to say? This is the thing about this. There's no preparation. I don't know what's in your brain. Go on. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say that I truly enjoy having sex with you. It's fantastic.
Explosive.
And I think if you're in a marriage relationship, I think that's important. I think you shouldn't ignore that bit because if you don't enjoy it, most likely you're going to try and find somewhere where you are. That's
very, very valid.
No, it's important.
Valid.
It's important. And
when you say it like that, it's
and I think the building block of creativity in terms of not just in that department, but just in life, as we'll come up in another episode when we really talk about struggle and faith versus fear and stuff. But there's a lot of our marriage, we didn't have a lot of money, and we had to be really creative in terms of, how many nights we play blackjack and do arts and crafts with the children and just, trying to create a home that was fun and amazing. And if you remember when we done our naked event the other day, there was a point in there where it was almost like a revelation that, like, for some, if I was trying to say to women, you remember, I was saying to women, if your man or your partner, because it's not just a man, it's just your partner, is not wanting to come back home, ask yourself why. What type of environment do you create in your house whereby they're trying to overly busy themselves, they're overscheduling themselves at work, they're like all of a sudden always at the gym or going to snooker or whatever it is. Why? Because I know with you, and I can say that, do you remember that time? Yeah. Like, as an extreme example, it's not like that every time, but I remember I was in a very important meeting and I've received a text from you, and the text is a bit hot. Yeah. And it's like, you're saying some words, and I just remember there's probably like 45 minutes left of the meeting. I cut down the time to like 5 minutes, and I'm said I'm out of here. Like, I couldn't even explain to them. I seen a text, I nearly choked in the meeting. I was like, I am coming home. And I put my car, I drive a German whip, and I put it into sports mode, and I got back home quick. And, candles. I remember coming into the bedroom, and I'm like, the bedroom just smelled nice.
Yeah, scented the room.
And I didn't even realize that you'd done all of that. Like,
prepared
you
the bed. Yeah,
there was like snacks and treats in the room. And
nice little.
You had some beautiful lingerie on, and I was just like, my head nearly blew off before I even like touched your hand. Never mind anything else. But I'm being extreme with that example because people need to understand, you need to be creative. You need to like create an atmosphere of expectation, and it's not like that's the norm all the time. So even though I am living the dream with you, it's like the fact that you're coming home and the house is just nice,
making an effort creating an environment that is welcoming and that you'd want to come home to. I think there's nothing worse than you know what it's like when you go somewhere, you go visit a friend and they're in a relationship, and you can tell they've had some kind of altercation before you've arrived, and you could cut the atmosphere with a knife. Like, there's nothing worse than walking into an environment where you can feel that energy and that atmosphere. I want to be home. Or it's a mess and there's just things everywhere. Like, my biggest hate is
my house is
untidy and messy,
clean, like 9 out of 10 times,
tidied up, and also in terms of creating that environment, I feel like as a woman, for me personally, I can control that very, very easily.
So let's go back to then this expectation thing, then, because I really think this is just my, because I hear some rubbish, you know. I hear some. You hear it in it like, oh, marriage is so hard.
We hear this a lot,
and I'm thinking, what's so hard?
The old board and chain.
They sound like they're just, I don't know, like they're on some
like
jail
prison.
sentence. Yeah. So I don't know if people's got the expectation right because
for what they think it's going to be, because people gear up themselves for this big spectacular wedding day, and I think they don't think past that.
So I think though, I think the building block that helps you or us is, I do think it's some of your earlier childhood. I know this sounds a bit deep, but you allow the house to run, but that's because you're not lazy. You're not a lazy person. You cook clean, you do like that homely stuff, and then you do everything else outside of that. And I think there's, I know, 'cause I've had conversations with, as you can call them, my brothers, the man them, whatever, and man are saying they're finishing work, they're coming home, no food, and like their partner is looking at them to say like, what we're having, and we're like, what? I'm coming back and there's no food, or they're getting with, and this is where you got to be careful with just looking at them BBLs, big batty and breasts or whatever.
I can't do that.
No, and no, seriously,
but
like, I can't cook. Like,
here's the thing though, because I'm careful that we're not just putting that responsibility on
tag
her,
team, yeah,
because it's not my responsibility alone that we
not
eat as a family. However,
this is where premarital counselling
this is
helps.
where the counselling helps, and also that viewpoint of how is, because one of the topics in the counselling is, how will your household run? So I know for us it works that we, a whole nother episode, we have a meal plan, we work together. I do the meal plan with everybody, we get our food down, I do the shopping, everybody knows what's going to be cooked, so know what's going to eat. I might cook, the girls might cook, you might cook, we might go out to eat. Like, there's a plan. It works well that I do the washing. It works well that you take care of the house stuff, so like car stuff and things like that. I don't know when things like that need doing, but you do. Like, it works, but that's because we've worked that out between us.
Communication.
We've communicated that between us, and the reason that there is no expectation of me to expect Nathan to sit down and do a meal plan. I would be kidding myself if that was what was going to happen, because I'd be kidding myself.
You feel like a meal plan? Okay,
get piece.
All right then.
Get a piece of paper. Let's see. Honestly,
no, but it's about.
But it's knowing that, and it's not trying to like say to you, put onto you the strengths that I have and make you do them. Like, what's the point in that?
This is why I think the expectation thing is important, to explore what's each of us strengths and weaknesses. What is it that you're thinking is going to happen? Like, talk through the day or the week of like
you
how
hit the nail on the head. What is it that you are thinking is going to happen?
And can you stay on your side as well, please?
Keep
Thank
crossing
you.
the boundary. What is it that you think is going to happen versus what is the reality? So what you think is going to happen, and women do it all the time. I know I've done it. I've sat there and been like, oh, Nathan, I wish he would just, bad example, wish he would just do the washing. That's a bad example because you do that. But I wish he would just do all of that stuff and take care of it and not say anything, and get irate and irritated over a conversation that you haven't had yet, over an expectation that's in your head but isn't actually expressed.
Do you think, I think as well, I know it's a bit off topic, I am glad that we got married in an age where there's no social media, because
oh, child, that's a big one.
When I proposed to you, for example, it was just a church thing. It was amazing. It was beautiful. You cried and it was special. No, there's no real photos of that, really.
I think someone's got it on their really old Nokia phone or something like
really
that.
Pixelated
really
pictures.
Bad pictures.
But like, there's no pressure to do this big engagement. I'm seeing, like, we remember our last relationship event, Naked. There's lots of young couples there, and I know they spent like about £2,000-3,000 on the proposal, and
that's
I'm
a
like,
deposit
bro,
that's towards your house.
This is madness. But what it is that in social media, it's like everything looks
they've got
pretty.
Drone footage and candles and roses and all sorts of their engagement. The engagement, not the wedding. I'm thinking, as lovely as it all is, and I'm sure it's something to look back at, but the amount of investment you've put into that, please invest in your talking and communication with each other, and think about your future plans. Heavily invest in that, because as much as
and also, before I forget, is the reason why I raised that about social media in terms of expectations.
Yeah.
So let me break it down. You can look on social media, and even now, and this is why I'm glad we got this opportunity to do this podcast, because the truth of the matter is, you post some of your best pictures. You don't post when you're looking ugly. You post
all your best pictures
when you're tired, or you post them when you've gone on holiday, when you've gone out for a nice meal.
Living your best life.
But your actual real life is not Instagram. My advice would be is to lock it off. Although that's not wise, because we want you to watch this, we want you to listen to this.
So yeah, don't lock it off, because we want you to follow us.
But I think it's about balance, because I think that, you know, real life is not Instagram life. So obviously we post on our best bits, going out, you're eating, you're going on holiday, and
boomerangs of your drinks and your cocktails,
and it looks like woo woo woo.
Yeah.
But what helps a relationship, a marriage to grow is that behind the scenes conversation. It's those conversations when we're talking about our finances. It's when we're planning through our schedule and we're thinking about what are the things we need to do this week, when we're kind of like having to like look at the pile of washing, the sink full of washing up stuff. Like, there's a real work ethic that we do behind the scenes, which is not always able to be captured.
I think we talked about this the other day, because we were laughing. I think it was during the holidays, and it was, and we're like up at like 6 o'clock, 7:30. Birthday is I think it was Ayana's birthday, and was up and out the house by like 9-10 o'clock. And we've already started the day as a family. Like, we are get up and go type of people. There's no like hanging around wasting time. But I think that it's getting that message out that there's, in order for people to understand the finished article, or the end product, or the photograph that you see on socials or wherever you see them, there was all of these things that happened beforehand where you don't always have the camera to hand, and you didn't see the praying at 8:30 this morning. You didn't see us talking through the calendar for the week. You didn't see me going to meetings beforehand and then getting to do the next thing. And we are like, as a family, all of us are like that. Like, we get up and we go, and there's no
really waste time.
There's no time for wasting.
And I don't know, we might need to just do this in a specific episode around the order between the sheets principles. But, you know, one of the things that I keep on seeing people ask us is like, how are you doing it? Because our context is, we coming up to being married for 17 years. We have 4 daughters together.
Yes.
We run a charity.
Yep.
We have a business.
Yep.
We have some investments.
Yep.
And we have each other.
Yep.
Yeah. And people are like,
tick, tick.
How do I do all of that? And I think it's because now, through trial and error, we've learned some stuff. So every Monday, for example, we will have a pre-planning meeting and a planning meeting for the week.
Yeah.
So we logistically look at all of the stuff that we need to do.
Yeah.
We have a shared calendar on Google, which is color coded. Like, what is it? Purple's for family, orange is for business, blue is for events. There's lots of colors.
Internal meetings, external meetings. We've got our own individual personal calendars.
We do weekly financial meetings where it's like, it's just a conversation about finances with an agenda. We pray, we look at our balances, we look at the actions we need to make. We do that weekly. So there's things that we've put in place because of trial and error, and
because it wasn't always like that, because we didn't get married with finance. We didn't get married with a plan. We didn't get married with all of those sheets that we just talked about. And we've learned that through going through some hard times.
Yeah, so with
but
calendar.
I think even before that, one of the first examples, I'm thinking of our Fridays, and it's just come back to me. Obviously, we don't use spreadsheets, or we do, but not as much as we did then. But the first spreadsheet that you ever produced was for our wedding. Do you know that?
Really? I can't remember that.
Oh, yes. I can see it in my head now. It's crazy. You had got your laptop out and You
I really was
created,
trying, wasn't I?
you actually did this, and I'm like, no way, this is, even though we didn't probably realize it was a thing that we did do now all the time, but you created our budget for our wedding based on getting 3 quotes for everything, so for the cars and the church and
Yeah, I remember that.
do you remember? And you created this whole spreadsheet on Excel
My
of
God.
all of the different costings for everything, because we were getting married based on faith. Like, we didn't have the budget. We didn't have the money.
Shoestring.
We had a
What's that saying? They say shoestring budget.
shoestring budget.
What happens when you don't have the string?
We just had the end bit, the knot.
You don't have the shoe, you know.
We didn't have the shoe, we didn't have the string. We just had the knot.
My God.
It was tiny little. It cost us about £9,000, and I know that I can remember because I can remember the spreadsheet.
Yeah, and when I started to hear other people's costs,
30 grand.
30 grand wedding, 10 grand, 11, 12 grand. I was like, good for you. But yeah, that's crazy. But so in this episode, we really wanted to encourage people, that there are some building blocks. Can you remember some of them? Just quick fire.
Marital counselling.
Yeah.
Was a big one. Honesty and integrity.
Yeah.
We've talked about some of our sheets, our principles, things that we do, finances, talking about things, communicating things, and sex. We talked about sex a little bit. There's a building block.
I would love to do a whole episode about that. Talk
about what?
Positions and stuff. I'm joking. I'm joking. But and also faith, the importance of our relationship with God.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're crazy.
That topic really gets you, innit?
It's not. The topic doesn't get me. It's where you say it. Like, okay, I want to do a whole conversation, a whole episode around that
I
topic.
think we should do a series. I think we'll go viral then.
I think we will. I think people will be like, okay, that's what it's all about, really.
I'll be topless in the show, and you just wear some nice lingerie, and I think people proper tune in.
Set the room, fluff the cushions.
Yeah. So yeah, marriage is a good thing, and I really encourage people to find their own blocks, but spend that valuable time in terms of communication, because I think communication is a master key.
Yeah.
And to do all of the blocks in the first place, you need to spend quality time having a talk.
Love it.
So this was Between the Sheets podcast with Nathan
and Sabrina Dennis.
Follow us on all our social media, Nathan and Sabrina. So use the @ Nathan and Sabrina. Like, subscribe, follow, share. Give us some feedback. Tell us what you thought about it. Actually, what are some of your building blocks? What are the things that you've put in place for your relationship, your marriage? Also, give us some feedback. DM us. We will get back to you. Trust me, we will.